Texas moves to 4-0 on the season. They defeat Baylor big in Waco 38-6 to open up their final march through the Big 12 Conference. Tommy Yarsh here alongside Horse 24/7's Eric Henry, who's joining us from McLean Stadium. Eric, defensively, this Texas team has looked so good. We'll talk about them here in a second. Quinn Ewers tonight, his most efficient night passing, 78% completion percentage. That's the highest of his career. We'll start with the Texas offense. Your immediate thoughts on how the Longhorns fared on that side of the ball tonight.
Tommy, I don't want to be one of those riders who, rides the wave, right, and goes with the highs and lows of the team. I want to try to give a honest and fair perspective. However, it is very hard to not get caught up in what you saw tonight. The big thing in my mind, why you got to temper it, is it was Baylor. We know that Dave Aranda's club is struggling. They really had no match for Texas in terms of, Texas's defense. That certainly gave Quinn Ewers and the offense plenty of opportunities to make plays. But with that being said, I just published my piece available. It's up now on Horns 24/7. The big thing was talking about this type of performance, Tommy, is why you hire a Steve Sarkisian as a head coach, because of what he brings as an offensive play caller. The amount of variety that Texas's offense showed, Tommy, I don't know how much this showed through on the broadcast, but whether it was things like, you got the little huddle behind Quinn Ewers before they all kind of scrambled to a different formation. And what that ended up being was the Xavier Worthy, pass downfield to Jatavian Sanders, little wrinkles like that, using a variety of players, Tommy. On the touchdown run by Jonathan Brooks, where he bounced it off the right side of the line, you have a 12 personnel, right, with Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders, and then you get a mix of a Malik Agbo, a guy who's an offensive lineman who also doubles as a tight end in their heavy set. You get 11 personnel in different ways. You get 12 personnel in different ways. You get empty personnel in different ways. When they went empty, you saw Jatavian Sanders out wide. You saw the running back split out wide. Talk about Gunnar Helm, another guy who, this time last year, Quinn Ewers talked about it post-game, said that, he might have been able to do what was asked of him tonight last year. He's really grown into a well-rounded full tight end. To quote Quinn, he said he's not just a hand in the dirt guy who's go out there and bust his behind blocking, which obviously Gunnar Helm does a great job doing that, but he's taking his game to the next level, catching a first down grab here, right? So just the level of offensive variety that we saw tonight is something that gives me definitely some hope. Now, again, you want to see that carry over against tougher competition, but that was my big takeaway offensively. Not necessarily that Texas scored the points that they did, but the variety that was showed in doing so.
As we mentioned, Ewers, his highest completion percentage of his career, 18 of 23 through the air for 293 yards and a touchdown, also ran in for one. This Texas rushing attack, back-to-back really good weeks. 4 touchdowns came on the ground. Jonathan Brooks led the way, 18 carries for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. Eric, a big takeaway for me on this offense: 0 drop passes from these Texas wide receivers. That's something that they've struggled with the past couple of weeks. They avoid that altogether today. Let's talk about this Texas defense now. Man, Eric, this Texas defense is really, really good. 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. They did not allow a single touchdown tonight, despite 6 trips for Baylor into the red zone. What stood out from them to you besides really everything?
And apologies, Tommy, I'm right next to the Texas radio booth, so they are packing up, heading out of here. So if that is coming through in the broadcast, my apologies. But what stood out about that Texas defense is the front four. Tommy, it's everything. It's very rare in my experience, that you get a talking point preseason and it holds true and carries true throughout the regular season from the start. It may be something that is an aspiration for coaches, an aspiration for players, right? They're like, hey, this is going to be a really strong point of our team. And eventually, midway through the season, that kind of clicks in, that kicks in, and it goes and starts clicking, right? Jaron Thompson said it to us 2 weeks into camp. This is a mean, nasty, and violent Texas front four. And they've shown just that. Jalen Ford talked about it post-game, the fact that his job is made so much easier when you have guys like Byron Murphy, who had a career high 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, or, a guy like Alfred Collins or Tavondre Sweat, really just dominating the other team's offensive line. And to be, and I talked about this in my pregame in the preview, Tommy. Yes, this is a Baylor offensive line that has gone through some rebuilding. They lost 4 key pieces from last year's team, but they have a pair of veterans in the Barrington twins who came from BYU, who've played a lot of football. So they're not just out there dominating, true freshmen and guys who can't play. This is still Big 12 conference football, and they're just that much better than everyone else. I asked Byron Murphy post game, what's more satisfying to you? Is it, 2 sacks or a touchdown? And Byron gave the right answer. He said, hey, what's satisfying for me above everything is a win. But then talked about the fact that he had 2 sacks and the 3 forced tackles as well. So I think that's a big thing, seeing with how deep this defensive line goes, Tommy. Justice Finkley, Vernon Broughton, Tavondre Sweat, Alfred Collins, Byron Murphy, Chris Ross, who was a pass rush specialist, is banged up. You get Jamon Tapp, who's coming in, and that's not even accounting for an Ethan Burke, who had a quiet night. So just the depth of this Texas defensive line, it really opens up things for everybody. It helps the secondary cover better. It helps the linebackers stay clean to make plays. And in my mind, that mean, nasty, and violent Texas defensive line just is the key to what that defense does.
Yeah, really, that front seven for this Texas defense, once again, doing very good against the run. Held Baylor to 60 yards on 31 carries. That's 1.9 yards per carry. In the secondary, little bit of throws that probably they want back coverage-wise, but coming into this game, we did know that Baylor threw the ball deeper than any Big 12 team so far this season. So those deep shots were anticipated, and some of them did get away from the Longhorns. So other than that, not too much that you can knock tonight. I really think the special teams would be the only other thing. Obviously, the 2 muff punts and then Bert Auburn's field goal hitting the upright. That's the only thing really that I can think of. But to be honest, that doesn't worry me too much. I think Jeff Banks is one of the better special teams coaches in all of college football. So now heading into next week, I think they need to show that they can be strong at home as well. The past 2 home showings for the Longhorns have not been what they would anticipate. A close, not a close win, but a slow starts against Rice and Wyoming. Eric, what are you wanting to see with the Longhorns moving on to host Kansas in what should be a much tougher game next week?
Well, you touched on it, Tommy. You touched on one of them, which is performing well at home, starting quick at home, right? That's something you want to see. This team, this is probably the first time this year. Well, I should say the second time, because they also put together 4 quarters of consistent football from the start against Alabama. But, tonight really, hitting the ground running against a Baylor team that they clearly overmatched. So you want to see them play at home, play full of 4 quarters of consistent football from the jump. That's one. The second thing is you got to give Texas credit, right? Because this has not been a good road team over the past few years, especially under Steve Sarkisian, where they entered this year 3-6. So the fact that they have 2 road wins is nice. But again, starting fast at home and finishing at home is something you want to see. And I think, Tommy, listen, as you talked about Jeff Banks' special teams, he'll certainly get that going. That's not too much of a concern. The only thing I think I want to see a little bit more of, and again, they did well as the game progressed, but didn't have great starts on first down. There was a play, I believe it was a run play that got stopped for a 4 or 5 yard loss early in the game. Quinn got sacked early in the game as well. So just, starting fast a little bit, starting fast, but starting better, on first down. That's something I want to see, because again, any offense, the best offense, you want to go first to second. And they certainly had their big chunk plays in this ball game. But with that being said, as the competition gets tougher, you want to establish that line of scrimmage and put yourself in your offense and keep them on schedule and find ways to make plays, especially make those third downs manageable, right? So a game like this, you overwhelm Baylor, especially offensively and on that defensive line, that happens. But when you're in a tight ball game, you really want to know that you're going to be able to have efficient football plays. I think we saw some of that, Tommy, in the quick game, where they're really able to get the ball at Quinn's hands very quickly and allow them to make plays. So have that carry over into early downs and set your offense up for success as, you get against tougher competition and you end up in those third down situations. You want those have those be third and manageable.
Yeah, Eric, I know you've harped on first down being something that the Longhorns need to improve on, and we've talked a lot on these instant reactions about third down. Longhorns 3 of 9 tonight. You can argue that you want to see better there, but hard to really be mad when they held Baylor to 5 of 18. Once again, harping on the incredible performance from this Texas defense. Eric, we try to talk about depth guys every week. Not too many really on offense for a majority of this game, at least that I saw, that made a massive impact. Jonte Cook had a really nice deep grab over the middle, kind of tripped up over himself on what would have been a touchdown had he not, mixed his feet up. But defensively, Anthony Hill and Malik Muhammad, we've talked about them a lot. As they've gotten more playing time, I think they've gotten better. Anthony Hill, 6 tackles. Malik had 4 tackles with a pass breakup in the end zone that almost was an interception. Any other depth guys for you that you want to add?
I think on the offensive line, seeing like NATO, come out there and make an impact on the offensive line. I think that's going to be key, Tommy, especially with Cole Hudson being banged up for a little bit. That's one. And I mentioned one in Jamon Tapp only because Chris Ross, kind of had a role as one of the pass rush specialists, right? So, someone, especially when you lose him for a month, you need someone to fill that role. Anthony Hill certainly had a rush, where he almost got to the quarterback, but whoever that defensive end is going to be, whether it's Jamon Tapp or as he get back home, is it going to be, Ethan Burke? Ethan Burke's not obviously not a def guy as a starter, but whoever's going to be able to fill that role as a pass rush specialist. So definitely want to look forward to that. And I think also the run game as well, right? CJ Baxter did come back, return from injury and play. He had a couple moments, Tommy, where he limped off. So we got to see that running back depth, right? Jonathan Brooks certainly has shown that he can carry at 20 carries or 17 18 carries, but that's obviously not going to be ideal to have him carry the load that much every game, right? So if CJ's a little bit banged up, see like a Savion Red, whether it's that Wildcat package or Jaden Blue, so those would be the guys I'm looking at for sure.
All right, Eric, wrapping things up here. We're going offensive and defensive players of the game. You take it away first.
Got to go Quinn Ewers. I mean, you can't shade Quinn. I guess you could go with JT. JT Sanders had a beautiful one-handed grab, probably one of the prettiest one-handed grabs you'll ever see. But Quinn on that pass, threw a dime right into the breadbasket of JT Sanders. So offensive MVP got to show love to Quinn Ewers. He had a rough game last week, so I feel it's only right to give that to Quinn. And defensively, you got to go Byron Murphy. I mean, you could go with a Jalen Ford. He had the pick in the end zone, but I want to show some love to the big man and Byron Murphy. Even though he had his touchdown last week, had his moment in the glory last week, but I think just his dominant play, along with I mentioned the rest of the interior defensive linemen, setting the table, setting the tone up front for the defense. That to me is huge.
All right, we're going to share the same offensive MVP in Quinn Ewers. Like we mentioned earlier, his most efficient night as a passer, a career high 78% completion percentage. Didn't really have to do too much through the air. Really, the run game took care of him scoring wise, but looked a lot better delivering the ball. Didn't make as many errant throws as we've seen the past couple of weeks. Still one or two that he probably wants back, but overall a very solid performance for Ewers, and that should instill confidence in this Texas offense going forward. And then defensively, since you took Byron Murphy, I will take Jalen Ford. He was everywhere, very good at stopping the run, like he's always been. Finished with 8 tackles, a tackle for loss, and then the interception in the end zone as well. So solid performance all around from the Longhorns. They win it 38-6 to open up Big 12 play, move to 4-0, and host the Jayhawks out of Lawrence, Kansas next week in Austin. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Horns 24/7 Instant Reaction. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content coming your way soon. For Eric Henry and the rest of the crew, my name's Tommy Yars. Thanks for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your night.